Hello, hello. Welcome to the All In Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Peo. So my next guest here is Michelle Skeldon. Michelle is a great friend of mine from the building industry, and I'd known her for a bunch of years, and she'd started posting some stuff she was doing that was basically a complete opposite direction of what I'd known her as being a sales rep in the industry. And I had reached out to her on Instagram. I said, "Hey, Michelle, let's grab some lunch. I want to find out what you got going on. And I want to know, how did you get past this identity of who people know you as and getting out in the world and chasing something that's completely different and getting over some of the fears and objections to start it." So she met with me. We had a great lunch. And about 3 months later, here I am recording podcasts, and she was gracious enough to come back on the show, talk about all the things she has going on. She's an excellent life coach, getting started in this field, and I think she's going to do amazing, wonderful things. We got rolling in our conversation. It lasted just real close to about an hour. Probably could have gone on for another hour or more too. We had a lot to talk about. The conversation flowed great. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. I know I had a great time doing it. Of course, at the end of the show, if you like what you heard, you find some value in it, be sure to leave a comment, leave a review, subscribe to the show, or maybe just tell a friend or two about this. Helps us know what you like, what you're hearing, what you're finding value in, so we can keep providing more useful content. Anyways, let's move on to what Michelle has to say.
Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Peo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for coming on my show. Great to see you again.
Oh.
So for everybody that's listening, Michelle's a friend of mine from the building industry. We've known each other for a bunch of years. And I'm going to say kind of more in a casual way. Like, I knew Michelle for the company she worked for and saw her at events, and we'd say hello and we'd do hugs, and we knew each other. We were friendly with each other, but we didn't really know each other deeply.
No.
And you were showing up on my Instagram feed. And this is probably, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
And you were posting like life coach stuff. And I was like, what is Michelle doing? She's posting life coach stuff. And what occurred to me, not it occurred to me, but like in me, I've had like an idea of doing other things than what I'm known for. Like, I felt like compelled to like do a podcast like we're doing now. So I said, I need to talk to Michelle. I need to like go have lunch with her and say, Michelle, like, what in the hell? Like, how do you go from everybody knows you as this one person, you're identified as this person, you have a lot of success in the industry you're at, and you're just kind of going in a totally different direction with, you're not abandoning, but like you have a network of people that you know that you do business with that's based around your skill set you've been doing forever. You're, restarting your career essentially just from scratch or as a side hustle at the time. Like, I didn't know. And since we had lunch, what, November,
Yeah.
2019.
So how many months ago? 4 months ago?
Yeah. And since then, you've announced that you are leaving your position in corporate America and you're going to be doing this full time. So it's exciting to see you go from like, I have this idea, I'm going to do something, to doing it, to, hey, this is my full-time deal. But that's a huge like mental roadblock to get over, I think, for a lot of people of, hey, how do I reinvent myself, or how do I share a side of me that I have, but people don't know it as me? And what are they going to think about me if I'm attempting this? And then does it have ramifications if it fails? That can I still be the person I always was? And those are like mindset things that we think about internally, but we don't always know what the outcome's going to be. And I'm going to guess for the most part, most people aren't even caring what we're doing so much. It's more inside of our head. So with that, I'm going to let you talk about a little bit about your journey.
Let's talk about real quick the few questions that you threw out that we have, many of us, when we are in a certain position, maybe we have a certain persona identity and we are wanting to share another part of us, okay? And you were saying there's a lot of questions like, what happens if it fails? What are the ramifications? And we often have a lot of questions, but you know what I find interesting? We don't answer them.
I didn't think of that.
Think of that, right? Like, what if this fails? And then we stop. We don't go, well, what does that even mean? Well, what if it does fail? Like that exploration without judgment is everything. And that's kind of the work that I do, the mindset stuff, as well as action. But so I will say, I mean, that was kind of a lot. So ask me a specific question so that I
Let's start with that transition, like of deciding you wanted to do something and be in public with it, and share it with people that know you as Michelle, the sales gal.
Okay. So I want to share a little bit of my backstory. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but my backstory. Yeah. I was a meth addict at 14. I dropped out of high school. I had my first son at 16 and I was emancipated at 17. I started in this industry as a receptionist, like a few months out of rehab. That transformation in itself at that young age and that identity shift from being what my rehab would say, I'm always an addict, right? Once an addict, always an addict, to me saying, wait a second, I can be a new creation.
Right.
That transformation, I wanted to use that story way back when to help others. Okay. So this desire to use something that seemed terrible and horrible, I had already had that in me. So as I went through my journey, I've always wanted to help people. I always knew that, but I didn't know what that looked like. So when I was in the industry, fabulous industry, a lot of opportunity there. I started getting into personal development a little bit, dabbling in it. Really liked it because I loved the idea that we could change our future. Right. I loved that idea. And I thought, what could I do? So go forward to actually doing it. I say that it was such a journey because for me, it wasn't this all of a sudden thing. It took a lot of work. And when I say work, it's the mind work. It's that mental piece. And so I was in a coaching program and I was like, I want to learn more skills. I already knew I had sales skills, which I just believe is people skills. It's wanting to serve. And we've discussed this a lot. And it's something that we both feel passionate about, right? Selling you're not selling. Even leadership, it's all you are being there to serve others and to be connected to them. And that's what sets people apart, right? Yeah. So the skill set was very similar. And what I started to do at my corporate company, and I want to add this in, I started to do what I wanted to do as far as contribution and impact on a personal level. I started to do that where I was. I use this term prosper where you're planted. It's a biblical term, but it's like, I know that I knew it wasn't the right time to leave, a year, 2 years ago. I just didn't sit right. Some of it was mind drama. Some of it was finances. I wanted to, right? There's a safety and security. Funny because it's kind of, is it really secure, right? When you actually question it. But there was this sense of security and then all the mind drama and all these other things that I wanted to have in place. I'm not saying wait before you do anything because I don't believe in that either. I'm just saying that's how I was. I had a lot of things to kind of figure out. But what compelled me to really open up was I had a coach, Brooke Castillo, who was so proud and who was doing such a great work in the world. And she was a life coach. And because I thought people would make fun of it, I was kind of making fun of it in my head. You know what I mean? So I had judgment toward, honestly, sometimes when people are like, oh, I'm this coach or that coach, I would like be, well, you don't even have results in your life. So I had a lot of kind of yucky thinking that I needed to clear up.
Are you good enough to do this?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And then that example though, her example, I will say really it gave me hope that it was possible. And that's what I want to be in my life, an example of what's possible. But as a life coach, as a business, that's what happened beginning of 2019, where I said, wait a second, I can actually do this. There is someone who's done it. And then I started seeing this network of women and men who have done it. And we're proud, and so doing the mind work and then little by little, challenging myself to step out of my comfort zone, right? To feel all the feels that we try to avoid. Rejection, humiliation, judgment, right?
I remember you were posting some stuff on Instagram when you first were starting your journey, and you were like, I think it was like you had a dare a day for a month. And it was like, it was like the funniest stuff. It was like, wear mismatched shoes, or like, do these like absurd things, which it almost makes it easier to be, like uncomfortable outside your comfort zone when you're going to be absurd. Because like, okay, if you're wearing two mismatched shoes, that's absurd, and somebody's gonna like draw attention to it, and it's like, well, I'm doing this for this reason, and then you become more comfortable with being goofy or outside your comfort zone versus maybe, if your task was a little bit less absurd, where it's like, go say hi to a stranger, and not just say hi to a stranger, but, find out 3 things about them. That's a little bit more challenging because it's not absurd. But I think the absurdity helps you with the mundane tasks too.
100%. You totally nailed it. That month in my coaching program with my coach, there was a month of the dare of the day. And we created our own. We created I created my own dares. But you're absolutely right. When you consciously put yourself out there to feel that, what you will find is that what we're trying to avoid is just a feeling, and the feeling passes.
Yes.
So that's what's, it's like, but the brain freaks out. The brain is like, you're going to die. Don't do it. So when we, like you just said, when you do those kind of crazy things, I mean, I like to be put together. You know what I'm saying? Michelle ain't walking out the door with 2 different shoes. So that was, can I share one of the other dares?
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the other dares I did was asking for the restaurant owner to comp our meal.
That's a big ask.
Okay, this is what's interesting, and this is all crazy. I wrote down why that was going to be hard for me, and there was so much. Number one, they're going to think I'm poor. Right? They're going to think I'm taking advantage. All of my fears of what people were going to think if I just asked, hey, do you want to comp the meal? I wasn't going to lie if the meal was great, right? But it was so uncomfortable, and so like, doesn't even make sense. But I knew that was the building blocks, just as you said.
What was the outcome? Did you get the meal comped?
No, but it was pretty What was funny was, sorry, that kind of blurred. We had this, I was at brunch with 2 of my girlfriends. They were like, what the hell, Michelle? We are going to hide under the table. You are going to embarrass the shit out of us. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Just deal. Our waitress was a pregnant woman. And I was like, I didn't want to ask her because I felt bad. But then it was like, this is the dare. You got to just get uncomfortable. And the point is, it's not that I don't want to care, right? We don't want to be indifferent to what people think. I think that's a wrong way to go about it. It's not like I don't care what people think. It's just really discerning whose opinion matters to you and what you're allowing to stop you from moving forward, if that makes sense.
It does. It's almost like you're saying, I'm worried about what other people are going to think. It's almost like it's what you think. You're worried about what you're going to think about what other people think, because you don't know how somebody else is going to think, know? And if she says yes or no, or she might just look at you like, what the heck is wrong with it? It's not going to ruin your life, but you built up like so many scenarios in your head of like what could be or how embarrassing you might be. But like once it's kind of like said and done, you're like, oh, not so bad.
Totally, Nate. And that's the whole thing about the work that I do. And I it's the mind, a lot of thoughts, because I know that is the field in which we build our life. Every thought, every belief, and that's what generates our emotions that either causes us to act or enact. And then that's the results we get. So anyway, what ended up happening was really funny. The owner came over and he was like, so why was the meal not good? And I stared at him straight in the eyes, Nate, and I was like, no, the meal was great. And I just stayed quiet. And that's not me either. I mean,
that's so hard to be quiet.
Old Michelle, yes. That awkward silence when you're just staring at someone and you're just letting your thoughts go. Right? You're just like, and he was just so confused. But then I had to tell him because he was very confused. And I just felt like, as a fellow human being, I wanted to make sure he understood. And I just told him, it's a dare. Here's why it's really uncomfortable for me to do it. And I'm just trying to get out of my comfort zone. So he said, wow, for that, I'm going to discount your meal. So it was a discount, but it was just so funny. Anyway.
Well, I think, that goes to like sales tactics or sales tips, is this like, sometimes we're afraid to ask for what we want or maybe not even with sales, just in general. And just like, oh, what's this other person going to say if I express how I feel about them, or I ask them to help me with something or pick up. And I like literally hate asking for help. And sometimes you have to reach out and ask for help. And like, I don't want to, like, I'll just figure it out on my own.
Yes.
And getting out of your comfort zone is so important. And that kind of leads to, our next step with our lunch was getting out of our comfort zone. Cause I started talking to you and I said, you're doing this. You've said, I'm a different person. I've got a different side of me I want to show the world. Yeah. And I'm probably going to go off on the rails here all over the place, but to me, it felt like it was like overnight. Like overnight, Michelle just decided she's a life coach. But in reality, you said it was a couple years of building up of wanting to do that. But not only was it that, but it goes back to when you're 14, you become this person, you get out of rehab, you're doing this, and then you're along this path, you're along this journey, and you start. And I know this because I was listening to your podcast. You saying I was listening to Dave Ramsey in 2008, 2009. So clearly, it's like at this 10 years plus of information you're consuming, knowledge you're consuming, desires you want to go pursue, and they take you in a place where you become more comfortable. So when you decided at this year, hey, I'm doing it, to everybody else it feels like overnight, but it's been in your head. There's been experiences that led you to there. There's knowledge you've learned through consuming information or also life experiences. But anyways, so then I'm like, I've been in the same boat myself, where I was like wanting to do more, wanting to express myself more. And I'm like, I feel kind of stupid posting this on social media or on LinkedIn, because like, what are people from I work with going to think? Are they going to be like, dude, you're supposed to be like, because I'm in purchasing and you're in sales. So like we interact with each other on opposite sides of the table. I'm like, you're supposed to be professional. You're supposed to, represent this, and you're supposed to, do this, and you're showcasing this like weird side of you, which was kind of like doing, like, I just got it on TikTok. So I was doing stupid things on TikTok, and I was doing quite a bit more posting on Instagram. And what led me to that was I was thinking I wanted to do things, and I needed to get out of my comfort zone, and I had a reason to do it. And the reason was I was doing like this challenge where one of the key concepts was sticking on a diet, sticking on an exercise program, and not drinking. And I said, hey, I'm going to post this on it, one, because it's easy for me to make a quick video or take a photograph of me at the gym or whatever I'm eating, and I can easily just showcase what I'm doing without a lot of like exposure of my inner personality or fears and stuff like that. But I started talking about not drinking too. And I said to you, I was going to do this, and you were like, hey, there's a whole bunch of people, you'll be surprised, they're in the same boat as you, that don't have necessarily a problem with alcohol, but rely on it as a crutch when they go to events, when they go out socializing, when they go home to unwind and turn off, and they say, hey, I don't really need to drink 2 or 3 drinks tonight, but I'm going to because that's what I do. I'm known as the person that buys drinks at the bar or whatever. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I'm just going to put myself out there. And I even texted you one time. I was like, I think I need to do this thing. And I was going to ask you if I should. And because I said, if I have to ask her if I should, then I know the answer that I need to do it. And so I just did it anyways.
Yes.
And I started becoming like, one thing would happen to me is I would be like, okay, I'm losing this fear of exposing myself on and my fears and weaknesses and insecurities on social media. But all of a sudden, like, you're right, I started getting private messages from people, all kinds of people, like people that had been recovering alcoholics for many years, saying, hey, if you have problems, reach out, I'll help you through it, to people that I didn't know that well that said, hey, I see your journey and I want to be in that boat. I just, you're inspiring me to do different things. I'm not ready to go there, but it's inspiring. And other people, like I was friends with from high school that I'd known a lot of years. And all of a sudden they come to me and say, hey, that stuff you're talking about is really, really impactful. I've been in the same boat too. And you're like, I didn't realize that I was struggling with a lot of the things other people. I thought it was a lot of it inside my head. So when I started putting myself out there, I felt a bit of inspiration that, like, hey, what did I want to get out there and be public with my stuff, my story anyways, was to help people and connect with people. And I don't necessarily, at the time, know where my voice was going to be. Like, was I going to talk about motivation or this or that? And I'm still figuring that out. And there's like a part of me that says, what is my voice? My voice is me. Like, my voice is what are the things I deal with inside me and struggle with and overcome with. So it could be regarding fitness, health, drinking or not drinking, career growth, or becoming outside of my comfort zone. So this whole thing was just very eye-opening to be out there, being more public with things. And I attributed a lot of it to like watching you make this journey. And I'll be honest with you, like, I know you as like super energetic, super friendly, super charismatic, and very warm person. So I'm like, of course it's easy for Michelle to be this way. She doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. Like, she's got like no shame being just out there. And I'm like, prim and proper. And, and people like have, like, I think people that know me closely know that like I have a different, like, once you get to know me, I'm a lot more warm and a little wild and not so uptight, but I think we all have this perception of what how people see us and how we see ourselves.
Yes. I love everything you just said. One of the things I wanted to bring up, I wrote it down. When you said, I'm going to take it back to the beginning, kind of, not the beginning of the whole conversation, but when you said you were doing stupid stuff on TikTok and showing a weird side of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you notice how that's your judgment, that it was stupid stuff on TikTok?
Yes.
And that this side of you is weird, right?
Yes.
Isn't that interesting? Like you just said, it's like, because of our own dialogue, that's why it's showing up and we're feeling even more like it's weird or stupid, right?
Yeah.
Does that make it's just a little good, like little indication of just worth exploring, right? Like, if I put myself out there, or like this, and here's the thing, not that weird is bad, but if it makes you feel uncomfortable in a bad way to not want to show that side, that's where it's a good, indicator of like, okay, wait, does that make sense?
I do want to add to that because when you brought that up and you said that, I was like, I did do that. And when I say, why did I do that? Why would I say this is stupid?
Yes.
And it's almost like it's I don't know, how would you describe it? It's just kind of like setting up for the other person. Like if I would have said, I'm doing the awesomest TikToks, and you go, they're not that good, they are pretty stupid. Okay. Then you're like, set up, I'm doing all that stupid TikToks, and you go, oh, they're funny, they're good, you got to keep doing them. Then you're like, okay, good. Like I kind of like prefaced it so you didn't think I was like too into it. And then you're like, okay.
Okay, isn't that great awareness though? Like just, I mean, and it's so interesting, right? Because you're like, I'm literally almost playing small in a
Mhm.
sense. And we're talking TikTok, but let's look at that at other areas of our life. Are we diminishing because we're already like kind of failing ahead of time? We're kind of like, okay, it's just this, so that we don't have to feel if someone else disagrees. So
Yes, I would agree
it's
with
just
that.
good awareness, not bad, right? And I'm very, very hardcore about not judging ourselves and not literally, like, because we're human beings. But anyway, so that's just good awareness, because our brains, dude, they're crazy. But I had some other stuff I should have wrote it down, but I love what you talked about, everything you said. Stepping out. Oh, yes, I'm back. Sharing, being open, this other side. I love, love, love talking about this idea and sharing it and teaching. How do we be who we are fully in every arena of our life? Now, that doesn't mean we talk to our customer like we would talk to our children, correct?
Right.
There's a time and a place. But I think what happens often to many of us, especially in the corporate world, we think we have to be a certain way to fit into this certain position, right? And then all the dialogue comes up of not, being able to maybe share your true self or speak up or share this side of you. And so that is something, at the end of the day, what I would want to tell anyone who's struggling in that. And kind of like I was so proud of you and stoked to see you actually put yourself out there and show vulnerability. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. And we all have a voice that tells us we are alone in our struggle. We all have a voice that tells us other people can do it, but we can't. We all have this voice that tells us, do not reach out, right? You should be able to do this on your own, right? That voice, right, is a motherfucking liar. Like, let's keep it real. It is a liar. But what happens is we hear it, we've heard it so long, we've been listening to it. It creates this gap, right? It creates like a barrier. And that actually is disconnecting us from the breakthrough that we actually need and yearn for inside. Does that make sense? And this isn't a woo-woo thing. This is even in professional life. Like, I didn't get to making multiple six figures, a mother of four, without a high school diploma by just winging it or by just, what do you call it? Check marking the boxes. I worked on myself personally. And I do believe that when we're able to, not even when we're able to do it, when we begin to, just like you did, it unleashes and kind of breaks the shackles off. That doesn't make sense. Does that make sense though? It's almost like this, like in bondage almost. Like we can't really express ourselves. So anyway, it just takes a little bit of opening up and vulnerability, but it takes a practice. That's the biggest thing I tell business owners, especially professionals who are in a level, a position that is hard for them to break that identity or their fear of breaking it. Practicing, right? Like my dares, 30 dares in 30 days, you will transform your life because, right? You're practicing. And so that's the big thing, not just confidence, but in anything, any skill development, anything. What we practice, we get good at. So if we keep practicing our old habits that aren't serving us, right? And I'm just talking to people who want to change. If you don't want to change, if you love your life, I am not trying to change you. I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? This is for people who do feel like there's something else they want to do or break free from. What we practice is what we get good at. So if we keep practicing grabbing that drink at night, but we really don't want to, we're just reinforcing that and we're just getting good at it. And if you like it, great. But if you don't, we got to practice something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, and I think, when you're talking about like people who want to change or people who don't want to change, even if you don't want to change, but you just want to be a little bit better about who you are and where you're at with, I think it's still important to understand yourself and the getting out of your comfort zone with your vulnerability. Like you go, I don't want people to know this about me, but I'm telling you, like in this world and and especially in our industry, it's so much revolves around a networking of people you're close to that you can rely on to get things done. You want people, like if I need to call somebody and pick up the phone because I need something to happen immediately, like I could call somebody out of the phone book, not going to happen. But if I personally know somebody that knows me and they want to help me accomplish what my needs are, they're going to make stuff happen.
Yes.
And if you're trying to sell, you need relationships because people want to do business with people they know.
Right.
And you say, okay, well, why do I need to be vulnerable for that? Why do I need to show a different side of me than that? And it's like, you know what? Like, I didn't know you that well before you started sharing more of you. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, Michelle's got layers to this player. You know, she's like got so many different things. And all of a sudden I'm like, I have a connection with her on this self-improvement idea or outside of my comfort zone. Or I had no idea that you, struggled with drug addiction as younger and overcame it. And all of a sudden, like, I have empathy for you and I know things about you that I can kind of bond on and commonly share.
Yes.
And so instead of being like, oh, so-and-so wants to come and pitch me their product. No, it's like, hey, we talk about things we have in common.
Yes.
And and people, when you expose yourself, especially on social media, people are watching you and all of a sudden they almost feel like they know you a little bit better, even though they don't. They're not there. They're not there with your kids or whatever you're showcasing at soccer practice, but they start having a feel and a bond of like they're bought into your story. And when you see the same about other people, you're bought into their story and you're like, oh, I'm starting to build this community of people I want to get to know. And those relationships get stronger and they build on it. Yeah. And anywhere in life, you're going to really struggle to do anything on your own. You need a network of people 100%. That you can rely on and count on. And when you get outside your comfort zone and you meet people like you normally wouldn't engage with or you think you might not like hang out with on the weekends or invite on a girl's trip or a guy's trip, all of a sudden you're like outside that zone. You like realize, hey, I do have commonality with these people that I thought were completely different to me. But now I got a whole different range of ideas and assumptions about life. And it just makes you, I think, a better person. So.
Oh, 100%. Personal relationships, no matter what industry, that will never go out of style. Mm-hmm. Openness and vulnerability will never go out of style. And let's make it clear, right? This isn't about you share if you want to, that's fine. It's whatever you want to do. But being open, as you said, it builds a trust. You know what's interesting too? Even if I don't have anything in common with some of my customers, I'm friends, by the way, with every one of my customers. Well, the ones who are on social, I'm open with them. Yeah. I'm open with the church friends. I'm open with my family. I'm open with my girlfriends, no matter like my guy friends, all of it. Mm-hmm. Even if there's not a commonality, like if I'm into personal development, someone isn't, but I'm sharing a struggle I have or anything like that, you still gain more trust. And you now are, because you're unguarded, your armor is down. And what that does for others, it shows them like supernaturally, right? I can put my guard down too. So in sales, in leadership, managers, especially, I have this really, I don't know, I'm going to be going in the corporate world for sure to teach this stuff because there's a lot of managers and leaders who aren't letting that guard down and they wonder why their employees are afraid to approach them and share with them, right? And that's because they have this guard up. So opening up, all of that. And another thing too, Nate, I think you're going to find this too later on. There are people that are watching you that haven't even told you anything at all. That are watching and you are doing something incredible in their life just by being an example.
I believe that wholeheartedly. And the reason is two things. Like there's people will, like if you're posting on social media, there are people that will comment, there's people that will like things, but not most people don't. Most people just scroll through or so you don't realize that they're doing something. And I look back to my life and there's points in history of my life where maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was somebody I worked for, maybe it was somebody I worked with, maybe it was just somebody I kind of briefly knew in passing, said something. And that knowledge sticks with you forever. Like I'll give you an example. I had a CAD teacher. I was probably in 7th or 8th grade, taught AutoCAD. And his philosophy was like, hey, if I tell you how to do something, you're going to learn 25% of it. If I show you how to do it, you'll learn 50. If you do it yourself, you'll learn 75. And if you go teach it to somebody else, you're going to learn 100% of it.
Love
and
that.
I always reflect back on that. Like, that piece of knowledge has always stuck with me. That teacher, no idea, has zero clue that what he said impacted me this many years of my life.
Yeah.
And so I know that I've seen stuff on people that they've done that have impacted me, and I never told them.
Yes.
So if I know that I've been impacted by people I've never told, I know when, and I tell other people that are out there, inspiring people, like, hey, somebody's out there, you're making a difference in somebody's life, and you're never, ever going to know you did that. And you probably are going to make a bigger impact in that person's life you'll never know a single thing about than the people who have told you about it. Like,
it's so It's rad. And I'll also say though, and you probably, like you said earlier, when you did become a little vulnerable and sharing your own. So this is what I love, right? When we want to, many of us want to serve others and we want to impact other people's lives. But in a sense, we also just want to be true to ourselves. Does that it's not like, and that's kind of this place where I ended up getting to, and I think is important for people to consider. When we're doing something for others merely, but we're not doing it in service to ourselves, if that makes sense. Not trying to get, but like, there's a part of me that I know I want to share, regardless of if anybody gives two shits about it.
Yes.
That, right? Like, I'm at a place now where it's like, so, anyway, I lost my train of thought, but I want to say this.
I always lose my train.
I'm like, yeah. But I did write something down because I wanted to share this. I wanted to, because I know that your listeners, I think this is I want to share it. So again, when we talk about the voice that, and you even shared it, you were like, Michelle's this super outgoing. She doesn't give a shit. She doesn't have any, right? She doesn't go through the same mental drama that I go through, right? She doesn't have the level of maybe people counting on her to be this certain person or whatever the hell the brain tells us. Again, everyone has those. That person can do it. That person has more money. That person doesn't have kids. That person is more this. That person is. But everything that we talk about being more personal, being more open, stepping out of our comfort zones, sharing all the things, what I want everyone to know is even sales and leadership and management, they're skills that can be learned. And I believe this with 100% of my being. Some people say, personal skills, you can't learn how to be that. You can't learn how to be a genuine person. You can't learn how to be a person of morals or morality. I've heard this, right? Like, oh no, there's only certain people who can be good in sales. They need a certain a personality.
Yeah.
Here's what I truly believe. I mean, I don't believe that at all. I believe if anyone wants to be something, they can learn the skills to do it. I believe decision-making is a skill. I believe self-confidence is a skill. I believe communication is a skill. Everything that you and I have right now and what we will have is because we're building the skill to do it. It's not because we are some special flower, right?
Yep.
It's not because of our income level. It's not because of, it's none of that. It's because we have a desire to do something and we're going to then go learn the skills to do it.
I think it's when you start realizing that you're capable of things and what you believe that you're capable of achieving. And it's also about finding like your way of doing things. So like you'll say like, oh, only certain people would be sales. Only certain people could be in purchasing. Like for me, when I was coming up in purchasing, it was very like, you got to grind on these people. You got to beat them up. You got to like get them so mad at you. You hang up the phone on them. And I'm like, I can't do that. I don't do that. Like, that's not my style. So I'd always be like, I wouldn't be good. Then when I started figuring out like how my style was, which was, this more friendly approach, it becomes like a game. It becomes like, I don't know, like I love the mixing and matching and this and that. And and then the contract negotiations for me become like, fun points. Like, and because I found my way of doing things, I became a lot more successful. And like, if I'd have done something that works for somebody else, I might not have been successful. That
is such a good point, Nate. And we definitely have to do another podcast about purchasing and sales and the position.
We so do. We got to talk about how to reach out and cold call somebody.
I mean, really, but I really love what you said about finding your own way. And I would actually say it even in this sense, if we're doing something, but we don't like the reasons for why, or if we're not even questioning why, for instance, someone told you this is what you have to do to be right. You got to grind and all these things. If a new person in that position didn't question that, they would be operating just from the check boxes without intentionality, right? Without understanding, which we see that a lot. And that's why a lot of people are unfulfilled, right? Then you get the other person who's like, wait a second, why am I doing that? Which is good. You want to question, you want to be curious because you want to be congruent with your actions in both business and in personal life.
For sure.
And I just want to add this though. This doesn't mean we're perfect. Not at all 100%. And I'll be sharing another kind of story soon. But in terms of, being a human, right? Temptation and all the things that a lot of people don't talk about, but it is human. And again, when we open ourselves up, we will realize we are not alone. And that's what I know now, actually. My new belief, everything that I have gone through and am going through, there are people out there who are going through the same thing. And I believe that. And I think it's almost like an obligation and duty to share that, if that makes sense.
If you've been through, you have a place, a platform to have a voice and be a champion of somebody that's got similar circumstances. Yeah. I think it's important to do that. So I know we're running a little bit out of time here. Yeah. Sorry. And we talked about, we didn't really get to it, that you're doing this on your own full time now. It's all right. We got so much to talk about. There's definitely a need for you coming back on and continuing to share your story and everything you're working on. But since you are doing this on your own, where can people find you? If they want to talk to Michelle in person and get all this knowledge one-on-one, where can they find you? All
right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for having me on. I honor you for what you're doing. And thank you. It's just such a blessing to me to actually be asked to be on this. So you can find me at michelleskeldon.com and reach out to me there. I also have a podcast called Be More, Make More.
It's a great podcast, by the way.
Thank you so much. And that's that. I'm stoked. Thank you so much, Nate.
I'll put that in the show notes for everybody to find. And please go find Michelle and reach out and say hi to her. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and you enjoy your weekend.
Oh, thank you so much, Nate.
Thank you.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.